Right now, I'm reporting outside of the Los Angeles Federal Building. Take a look at this. We now have protesters trying to get through the fencing barricade. You see some of the individuals have been kicking it. Now they're trying to grab it. Some of them actually been throwing objects towards the agents and the officers. Let's get a little bit closer here. Take a look at the scene. And look at the agents here. They all have their riot equipment on. Some of them have the gas masks. Some of them have the less lethal firearms. We have a different agency there, too. These are the federal officers protecting that building. But take a look at the scenes here. They're banging on that fencing, and it seems like the agents are going to approach. They might start to fire here. Oh.
Independent journalist Jorge Ventura reporting on the No Kings protest in L.A. Demonstrators there appearing to try to penetrate the fencing at the federal building in downtown L.A.
They're seen at one point throwing rocks, police even using tear gas to disperse the protesters, and they did arrest multiple people. Jorge Ventura is an independent journalist who was there at the scene of the protest. Jorge, welcome. Thank you for joining us. First of all, tell us what you saw, and sidebar within that, did you fear for your safety? We saw at one point you had to duck for cover. What was that scene like?
Yeah, so the No Kings protest in LA started in that downtown area. The turnout was pretty big, even though it's smaller than some of them in the past here in LA. It was around 10,000 people where they marched about an hour in the downtown LA area, where the march remained peaceful. They just sang, they marched. Some of the citizens in LA were not happy that they were blocking traffic, but that went about an hour. But then after that rally was over, a certain section of those protesters then headed a couple blocks down to where you're seeing right now. This is outside the federal building. The federal building here in LA has been the scene of multiple protests the past year under the Trump administration. So the protesters kind of squared off with the agents there. And then that's where the scenes got very chaotic, as you can see some of the video. What really caught my attention were a couple of these kind of masked men, with masked individuals. They were in the all black logo, the black bloc logo that normally you would call like the Antifa clothing. I saw a couple of those individuals smash these huge concrete cinder blocks on the ground. And as soon as that happened, you saw more groups of the protesters grab those kind of cement blocks, and then they start to hurl those blocks over the barricade fencing and then over towards the agents. And this happened quite a while, and that's where you saw the agents respond with less lethal munitions, so they had rubber bullets. We saw massive amounts of tear gas being deployed. You kind of felt the agents had to deploy that tear gas or that crowd was going to get larger and continue to hurl that cement over. So it was an extremely dangerous situation. It was very chaotic during the day. LAPD had a helicopter that was issuing unlawful assemblies, and we saw a massive LAPD response. I believe the day finished in Los Angeles alone with 75 arrests, and a few of those agents were struck by those cement blocks.
What was their goal? I mean, it was a No Kings protest. I understand what they're focused on there, but now they're at a federal building, and what are they trying to do? If they break down the vents, what are they trying to get to?
That part was unclear, and as soon as I arrived to the scene, a few of the protesters were already attacking that barricade fencing, attempting to get through. It wasn't clear if they were trying to bring it down and attemptly charge the federal building, but anytime they were started to attack the building, we saw the agents responding with that tear gas, and then eventually LAPD, they did that tactic called the kettle, where they essentially start to move in and then close in on those group of protesters and make that massive arrest. But it was an extremely dangerous situation, and like I mentioned, it was these individuals that caught my attention. Like I said, they were in that all black bloc clothing, and they were smashing big cinder blocks on the ground. I don't even know where they got those cement cinder blocks from. I have no idea where they even came from. But as soon as that broke, that's where kind of everything got extremely chaotic. But I saw massive amounts of tear gas deployed, massive response by LAPD. And even into the night, some of the protesters were still out. And here's another scene that I shot. You can just see the massive amount of LAPD all in that kind of that riot equipment, getting their helmets ready, and less lethal munitions. But it was chaotic scenes throughout LA, especially outside of the federal building. And it's unclear if the crowd would have grew bigger if they would have ended up charging that building and those agents.
Yeah, Jorge, there were cars clogging up the roads. You spoke to one of the guys driving his car.
Yeah, that's right. You can see here.
You see that?
Yeah, let's listen.
We got pedestrians. We got, hey man, how you doing? You're a resident here in Los Angeles?
Hey, look, yeah, I live out here. Ice though, free Palestine.
I mean, You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, that was one of the chaotic things. Like I've been covering the riots, actually since 2020. I covered all the Black Matter riots, and one thing you also notice on the ground is, there are many people that come with the intention that they want to remain peaceful, but once they kind of get lost into the madness of the crowds, you actually see people kind of behave in ways they wouldn't. So even individuals that might arrive with intentions of, hey, we just want to march, you see there, like just even in the background of my shot, all those individuals grabbing those cement blocks and then hurling them over towards the agents. It got extremely dangerous. And especially for some of the residents even driving through here, wanting to get through, obviously you're just going to have some people kind of getting, just kind of wanting to be part of the excitement for them. But extremely dangerous situation for the agents. As of right now, we haven't heard of any really serious injuries where they had to be hospitalized. But it kind of felt that, when you're on the ground, when you're seeing numerous of people grab those huge cement blocks. But like I said, the night ended. There were 75 arrests on the ground in LA, which I believe was probably the most arrests out of any city that had a No Kings demonstration.
Yeah. Jorge Ventura, thank you very much. It did look very scary. I mean,